Welcome to our press launch here in Munich airport. Great to have so many new faces in here. I will try to really speak clearly and slowly so that the new guys really can follow me. For those who have problems to follow our updates, don't worry, don't hesitate to come directly to me or to these guys, and we will explain you in detail what we wanted to say to you. Well, 1 year ago we met many guys of you in Spain when we launched the new SX generation 2011. 1 year after, many things have happened. To be honest, 1 year ago I was a bit nervous what was coming up. We didn't know how would the new SX generation, especially the new 350, work on the market. And maybe it sounds a bit arrogant, but I was more than positively surprised about the result we could have with the new generation. I would even say it was an impact for the whole world of motocross, for the planet of motocross. I think the 350, especially the 350 with Tony Cairoli, that was a package which surprised and convinced everybody that there is now a level, a new generation, a new era for motocross. And well, there were lots of discussions in the beginning. Will that 350, the underpowered 350, will it be strong enough to really compete in the World Championship against the 450? I think we could make that proof with Tony. From the very first races, he was dominating the last season, and he could show that we are at a very, very high level now. And it was not just Tony, of course. There was also Marvin Masquin. He was dominating so strong against all the other competitors. He was so dominant also in the MX2. He was kept Ken Roczen clearly behind him. And this leads me actually to my latest surprise. I could not believe when Pete Byra told me some month ago that there was a great new rider coming into the team. When in the beginning or end of the season there were negotiations between Ken Roczen and KTM, I could not believe that guy, that he was so much linked to Suzuki. I know that situation since many years. I would never have expected that Ken would leave Suzuki, but it was his own decision to be a member of KTM, to come into the Orange family. And actually this was actually also a proof that we are at a real high level now when it comes to motocross racing. You know, back in 2006 when Stefan Everts joined our motocross team, took over the lead of the complete motocross team, he really started moving that whole thing into a new direction. He kept all the guys, all the knowledge together. He gathered all the information and his knowledge, the knowledge of the team, and he decided together with our R&D guys to go into a new direction. And now we are really at a level where KTM is the target, the benchmark when it comes to motocross racing. And of course, it's not just the team to be benchmark. If you want to be the number one in this business, you need to have the infrastructure of a team, the knowledge of a team, but you also need to have the right tools. You need to have the machines which are able to win the championships, and this is something we have gained, we have made in the last few years. And I can tell you, those factory bikes, they are awesome bikes for sure, but if you look at the production bikes, you will easily recognize that these bikes are very, very close to the factory bikes. And the factory bikes, they are using more or less 90% of the parts of a production bike. So they have the same frames, they have the same swing arm, same linkage, of course a little bit different suspension. Engine-wise they are very, very close, and this is actually a proof that we have achieved a level for our production bike which is really competitive for being market leader in the motocross. Well, and actually this leads me into the new models. Maybe some figures before we start with the bikes. For model year 12 we plan to produce 56,000 off-road motorcycles, 56,000, which is quite a big number, including mini cycles, including EXC and Husaberg. Out of these 56 we have 15,000 motocrossers, and 3/4 of these motocrossers are 4-strokes, and this means 1/4 are 2-strokes. And this is actually something, the 2-strokes, this is a market segment, a category we are really pushing a lot. We have done so much development and evolution in the past years, and I would say the 2-strokes are still those bikes every youngster needs to ride with, and there are clear benefits of a 2-stroke. Everybody knows they are lightweight, they are easy to ride in the beginning due to the lightweight. They are easy to maintain, which is an important thing. You don't need to be an engineer if you want to change the piston, and of course they are easy in terms of purchasing costs, and that is a major difference which makes come back many 4-strokes rider coming back into the 2-strokes instead of riding 4-strokes. We have, of course, the proven 125. The 125 is actually the most important bike in our segment, because there is the EMX 125, the Junior World Championship, which is just run on 125cc. This bike has always been #1 in terms of performance, and I think KTM is the only brand which really does a lot of development, and especially the 125. It's far ahead of all the competitor bikes. In addition, we had the 150 for those countries who allow to run the 150 in the 250 class against the 4-strokes. And last but not least, we have the new 250, and all these bikes are now fitted with the rear linkage system like we have it on the 4-strokes. In terms of the 4-stroke model range, of course, we have the same lineup as we used to have in the past. 250 SXF, always a top seller. We have the 450, which is still kind of competing against our hero in this segment, which is the 350 SXF. Not many changes on these bikes, I thought in the beginning. Technically they are pretty much the same, but nevertheless we do a lot of development. We get a lot of feedback from racing, from the market, and that's something we try to introduce and to get into the new production from year to year. And we have quite a long list, and I just put the highlights here on this chart. As I said in the beginning, the 2-strokes, they are fitted with the link now. There were lots of discussions. I even heard comments that riders felt kind of discriminated by not having a linkage rear suspension on a 125. So we listened really to our customers, to our markets, and there was quite a lot of feedback, especially coming from the USA, that there was a need that also the 2-stroke should be fitted with the linkage. So we did it. That's not a big problem. The 250 SXF is fitted now with an electric starter. This is also something we learned quickly. Since we launched the 450 SXF back in 2007, just fitted with an electric starter, the feedback has always been very, very positive. So the 350 was fitted also with an electric starter. Tony Cairoli, you remember many races last year when he was struggling a bit. While he was crashing, he could push the button already, and he didn't lose lots of points, and that's the major benefit. Even though you carry a little bit of weight, but you gain a lot of points just having this button. New suspension settings. Okay, we got the feedback a little bit soft in the first year. We improved it. An improved rear brake. We have Pirelli tires now instead of Bridgestone tires, new kickstarters, new clutch for the 450, and of course a new appearance for all the bikes. Well, and this is actually leading me into the details, and as always we have our expert Barney Plazzotta with us. Barney, we could call him an old fox. He is the man joining us. Barney is with us for more than, nearly 20 years, Barney, now, huh? 19 years. You look even like being longer. No. So we are, well, then we are pretty much the oldest guys in, or the guys being joining the company.
Let's
for the
talk about technical stuff.
Okay, all right. No, but Barney, he's the man, he's the leader of all off-road chassis projects, and he's really an expert, and he's the one really pushing his team always into the right direction. And I think to have such a position in the whole field of off-road, you need to have a lot of knowledge. You need to be an aficionado, and you need to have an enthusiasm to really do this job in the way Barney does it. And Barney, I already was talking about the linkage. What can you tell us about the linkage story?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, for sure, like PDS and linkage, we are almost on the same level. From the technical side, it was not the need to change on the two strokes, but for sure, like especially from the American market, we get the pressure to switch also on the two strokes to linkage. One thing on the link, for the wider range of tracks, it's working better, or it's easier to set up with the link, and especially in the US market, because they always have a different kind of riding style. They always shorten the stroke on the rear shock, so normally they ride 4mm shorter stroke, and especially for Supercross they reduce the stroke at about 10 mil, and that's the biggest disadvantage from the PDS, because if you have a look on the numbers, normally you have 108mm stroke on the shock on the PDS, and more than 130 on the link bike. So from my point of view, that's the biggest.
That means if you really have to absorb all the tough impacts on a short stroke, that's too much stress for
the
shock.
oil. The oil is getting then much hotter, because you do not have so many possibilities then if you shorten the stroke at about 10 mil.
Yeah. And the other day I spoke to Mike Stauffer, our test rider, who is also with us on the track, and he told me now with the linkage he can do the whole season with just a variation of 7 clicks on his rear shock. With the PDS he also could adjust the bike, but it was a little bit more work, and sometimes he had a special shock just for the sand tracks and one for the hard pack tracks. And now he says he has one setting for all the tracks, or one shock with just a little bit click setting, and actually this seems to be the major benefit.
Yeah. For sure, for the motocross, I mean, there is no question mark anymore. We will go with link.
Yeah. Okay. Barney, in terms of the frames, of course, you had to adapt the frame. Is the basic frame the same as we used to have it in 11?
Yeah, I mean, the frame concept and the frame layout is the same like on the PDS. The front area, the triangle is complete the same, only the area where the shock is mounted, because of the different direction from the link. So in the link you go more in this direction, while the PDS is more going to the direction of the steering head. So for sure this area we had to change, and also the fixing point for the link. But beside this, everything is the same like last year.
But it does not mean you have one frame for all displacements.
No, no, for sure you have different frames because of the engine mounting, and on the two strokes we also use smaller lower tubes to reduce the weight. And
the 1 to 5?
The 1 to 5 is the only one which also runs with a different geometry. That means the steering head is closer to the rider, because normally not all the riders, 125 riders, are like me. They are normally a little bit more compact.
Okay, you should know Barney, his hero bike is 1 to 5. He doesn't look like a 1 to 5 rider, but it's to make him young, to keep him young.
It's fun to ride.
It's fun to ride. That's true, yeah, that's really true. It feels like a bicycle, that thing. In terms of the swing arm, Barney?
Yeah, for sure, swing arm. We also took the one what we were using on the 4-strokes, 2011. We are still the only one, the only company who use one-piece casted aluminum swing arm, which is, from my point of view, big benefit, because you are more open for the design. And the biggest difference is just the position where the shock is mounted. So on the old one, we had it above the swing arm, and now it's the point below.
Wow. Yeah, the benefit of the cast process is that you really have one process to make such a piece. Most of our competitors, they have 2 components or 3 component swing arms. They weld swing arms to a cast front part. But I always say, a swing arm which doesn't have welding, it can't break at the welding points. The welding points are always the mostly stressed points. You call it the hot spots, yeah. And it's always a challenge to make a welded swing arm really reliable. And in addition, also the weight of such a thing is really optimal, because you really can make the thickness of the wall according to the needs for your bending stress. Yeah. So you make it thinner and thicker in areas where you need it or you don't need it. But in the last year there were lots of discussions if we had the right setting for the bikes. You guys, you know it best. Most of you are really professional riders, and for us as a manufacturer, it's difficult. Where do you position the bike? Do you adjust the setting for a highly professional rider or more the beginners? Many people say just make it for the average less skilled riders, because the top riders anyway, they make their own settings and own suspension tuning. So last year the general feedback was that we were a little bit on the soft side. So what did you do for the new season?
No, for sure, for this year we tried to have more bottoming resistance, because like also national race guys were already asking to have a stiffer setting. I mean, for sure, like Joachim mentioned, it's not easy to have it good for all the countries. Like in Netherlands, they always have complete different setup because in the deep sand you need something normally different. So this year we tried to make it a little bit stiffer, but beside this we also worked very hard to improve the friction again. So we spent a lot of time developing a new material for the dust striper and the seal. So it's a kind of self-lubricating material, which means also in really dry conditions the friction is dramatically reduced. So that means you can make a little bit harder setting without losing comfort.
They are made by SKF. That's a good German company.
But it's made in Italy. So I mean, it's owned by Germans, but they always let the others make the work. So
for me, it's a German company.
Yeah.
The settings, Barney, are they all the same for each category, or?
No, we have a setting for 125, 150. Then 250 two-stroke and 250 four-stroke have an own setting. 350 has an own setting, and 450 also.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a complete different setting, but you adjust a little bit from shim setting, and also the springs are different.
Okay. The rear brake, Barney, what did you do there?
Rear brake, we also have the samples with us, so I can explain in detail on the track. The main difference is that the bleeding hole now, you can see here the seal is above the bleeding hole. So that's the old version, so you always go over the hole with the seal. With the new version, the bleeding is integrated in the piston, so everything is working inside the piston, which means it's you do not have a wear on the seal at all, and also from the feeling it stays then the same.
Mm-hmm. So actually we could feel on long-term durability tests that there after many hours, after hundreds of hours, that we had some wear on the seals, and everybody knows what it means if you don't have a rear brake, if you lose the fluid. And so this is actually an improvement in terms of reliability mainly.
Reliability and constant feeling during the race.
Well, in terms of wheels, I already mentioned in the beginning, just coming back to the wheel design, we have CNC machined hubs, we have aluminum nipples, we have high quality axle rims, of course. For model year 12, we fitted the tires which are used by our racing team since many years. We are sponsored by Pirelli. We have been winning lots of titles on Pirelli. Pirelli is a well-known and high-end product on the market. And finally we said, why shouldn't we mount that good tire, that good traction tire on our motocrossers? And that's what we did for 12. And you can test the tires, of course, especially in the morning. There will be some slippery areas. You for sure will be convinced of the traction of that new tires. The airbox, basically, I think it's the same design as we used to have. Maybe. Just let's interrupt, Thomas. You don't need to hide in the corner. Come here, my friend.
Gentlemen, morning.
Morning.
Sorry for
this is Thomas Kutruf, our PR manager, international PR manager in Mattighofen. And it's a real honor, Thomas, you as a pure road racer, that you come to see us here in the dirt.
No discussion.
No discussion.
All right, so
yeah,
far?
That's fine.
No doubt.
No doubt.
See you. Good. So, if there's a model.
Okay, yeah. Well, the airbox design, it's still unique in the field of motocross in terms of the lateral access to the air filter without any tools. In addition, Barney, you did a new design of the airbolts.
Yeah, for the two strokes, because changing to the link, we also had to make new intake boots, and we concentrate at the airflow. and at the end of the day we could add some power to the engine, so performance for sure it's again a step forward. So we have one for the 125, 150 and the other one for the 250.
And the four-strokes, they all also have individual boots?
Yeah, they have for each capacity we have one boot. But
And
that's the same like...
I
what
tell
we
you,
have
these guys,
already
they
in
put a
the
lot of development in such a piece. You can make a lot of simulations, airflow simulations, and they do a lot of dyno tests. And it's a feature, and you can see it at all bikes in the meantime. Each single bike has a kind of special designed kind of funnel or a channel to really get an optimal airflow. In terms of the bodywork, that was a big story already last year. This was a feature Stefan Everts put a lot of effort in. I think he was at Kiskauer, at our designer, for more than 10 times to really adjust the bodywork in a way that we really achieved a bodywork which fits to the needs of a motocross rider. Very important were the contact points in the rear, the slim line of the shrouds of the tank and everything. And of course this was important to the bodywork. It's always the first feeling you have of a bike. Just already in the shop, you sit on the bike, and if the first impression doesn't attract you, then you are kind of skeptical. Barney, what did you do for 12?
I mean, like you already mentioned, from the shape, I mean, we didn't have any complaints, but one small problem we faced during the year, that if you run in muddy conditions, then we had too much movement on the rear fender, so we reinforced the side area of the rear fender to avoid the problem that it's getting it's cutting out pieces.
To make it stiffer.
To make it stiffer.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it. But yeah, that's a quick comprehension of an overview of our motocross bikes. Just a few features like the Brembo brakes, WP suspension. I think in the meantime we really have achieved a level which is accepted very well on the market. That cast swing arm, the frame made in steel, which is different to most of the competitor bikes. The integrated cooling, that means that the water goes through the triangle directly to the radiators, no hoses in the back. We have the CNC triple clamps. For those who haven't been with us so far, the special design of the triple clamps, it's something to really support. It's a design which supports the action of the front fork. If you squeeze the front legs too much, then you have a sticky feeling of the front fork. And things like this, or just the rental handlebar, which was started actually by KTM many years ago. In the meantime, many competitors tried to follow. By the way, the rental handlebar now is fitted with a new foam pad made by Rental. All these features are things which separate the KTM from many of our competitors, and which make the KTM being such a high quality product, I think. Barney, thanks for joining us. If there are any questions now, he could answer, but of course we will be out at the track all the time, and we will be free for you guys to answer all the questions. Barney, danke schön. But of course you need a good chassis to be competitive in the racing, but even more important are the engines, and this leads me to the engine department. Let's start with the 250. That 250 SXF engine, it was born back in 2006. We launched it in 2006, and already in this season, I think it was in 6 or 5, we already won the World Championship right away with the new design of the engine. It was really, right from the beginning, known for top performance, good power band. Actually, it has always been the benchmark. And if you look at the races, the GP, at national races, at regional races, the 250 SXF is a very well accepted and used bike in the market now. And for 2012 or 11, let's start with 11, there were some complaints, I heard some comments that the bike was kind of losing power due to the fuel injection. And I'm lucky to have Andreas Meyer with us. Andreas, he's the expert when it comes to engines. He's the project leader of 250, of the 350 engine, and he is also involved in all the other engines. And Andreas, maybe you come forward. What is the story about the power? There was actually, you did it on purpose to have a different power curve.
As you said, there were the rumors that this was by coincidence due to the fuel injection, but in reality we had a close look and ear to our customers and markets, and as I said by Jochi, it was always the benchmark in terms of high performance, and so we got the feedback that a lot of customers would like to have more power at the bottom and mid-range, and therefore we decided to create a little bit different character of the engine. We've given it more power at the bottom and mid-range, but still keeping also top performance on high RPMs. And to achieve this, we fitted new camshaft.
But this was already back in 2011.
This was done in 2011. And to achieve this, we fitted new camshaft to the engine. We also did a lot of work on the exhaust system, and this was the main thing why the character of the engine changed. The fuel injection was just on top of all of this.
So, actually, due to the feedback we got in the market, we developed, for those who want to do top performance racing, we developed a special kit.
Yes, exactly. So for those who really want higher top performance, maybe sacrificing a little on bottom end, we developed a kit with a different intake camshaft, with a different cylinder base gasket to achieve a higher compression ratio, and this together with a specialized EFI map and along with a Krakovic exhaust system then offers what maybe some of the races really want on top of.
Actually, we achieve a level with this with these few things where you can race the GPs, and that's what many of the riders of the riders racing the MX2 are using. Just a different intake cam, a different cylinder gasket in combination with an Akrapovic, and that's it. By the way, the inlet cam, the gasket, and a different mapping, that's a real cheap solution for just €170, and I think so we really can cover both needs for those riders who want more to have the bottom end characteristic. The standard bike is more than perfect, and for those who really want to have the maximum ref range and the maximum power, they can have the other kit. Well, what else did you do for for model year 12?
So the major change for model year 12 was the electric start. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, our factory riders, thanks to electric start, have a lot more points on their account at the end of the season, and so they were asking for electric start also for 250, and so we of course would like to give it also to our customers.
Yeah.
And to fit the electric start on the 250, we had to change the ignition cover. So the engine is equipped with a new ignition cover, and all the internals are taken over from the 350. That has already proven to be a good solution for one complete model year.
Okay, so you just put on a different ignition and this drive, and then it can be fitted
Of course, to provide a perfect starting behavior, we also had a new mapping for the fuel injection, especially for starting, but in principle it's like you say. If people want to reduce the weight, because they say they do not need the electric start, we also offer a kit to remove the electric start, build it back to kickstarting, where you can save in total approximately 1.5 kilograms on the whole bike.
Yeah. The weight in the 250, of course, is always a big issue. Therefore, if you want to have to reduce 1.5 kilo, and you really think you never crash, then it's fine to retrofit the Kickstarter. In terms of the EMS, in terms of the fuel injection mapping, what did you do?
For the electronic fuel injection for 2012, we made a new mapping with a special focus to create best and maximum performance, especially under severe riding conditions. For example, in deep sand operation, that the engine gets very hot. But also in these operation conditions, you always have best possible torque and performance of the engine.
Okay, actually, you guys anyway work on the fuel injection day by day, and there is a lot of knowledge, of feedback, of learning in that business, and it means you always get the latest updates into the new models in terms of the fuel injection usually. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the 350. That 350, I already said in the beginning, that was kind of a spot landing. In the beginning we did not know, does that concept really work on the market, but I think it was more than a proof what happened in the first year. The principal idea of the 350 was to make a bike which is easier to ride, but nevertheless has the power of nearly a 450. That means the target was to have an engine which has the size more or less of a 250 four-stroke engine, but with the power of a 450. And I think you guys did an excellent job, and this was actually your first real great project you had. You are still very young, so congratulations. Congratulations, Andreas, to what you achieved with this engine. What was actually the basic idea of the concept?
As I said, the idea was to provide a powerful engine, but also a very small engine. And to achieve this, of course, we had to look at each single component to make it as compact as possible. Maybe one very important point to mention, it's also shown here, is that we tried to, or we achieved a minimization of the oscillating masses. With this,
the oscillating masses are the masses going up and down, like piston and the connecting rod and things like this.
So with achieving this, we do not need a big balancer shaft, which usually is placed in front of the engine, or as on the 452's balancer shaft on the side. And so we can only use a very small balancer shaft, which is a big help to reduce the engine size, also keep the weight low. And so by the way, this balancer shaft in this engine gives a lot of functions. So it's a balancer shaft, it's an intermediate gear for the timing drive, and it also drives the water pump. So this maybe is just one thing to highlight how we could realize this compact engine.
But that engine, nevertheless, it feels so gives you such an easy feel. The handling, it's outstanding, and also nevertheless the performance is so strong. It's strong enough that Tony could make several hole shots in the last year.
So in terms of performance, so it's to mention that the engine is really powerful. It's almost the top performance of a 450. And beside this, it can run at very high RPM additionally. So we have a wide usable power range. And this gives you really sometimes an advantage about the 450. Because if you do not look just on the power curve, if you look at the traction force at the rear wheel of such an engine, and you compare the power curves, you will find out that you can gear the 350 a little bit shorter. So more or less looking at the power curve over vehicle speed, you are having the same performance on the rear wheel then. Maybe you have a very small portion where the 450 has a higher, but then the 450 already drops and the 350 still keeps the power. And so this is the advantage. When you remember the picture at the very beginning that Tony is 2 bikes in front of the rest.
Yeah.
Maybe he was in this area riding the bike.
Yeah. And this happened even in the power-consuming terrains like sand, and the picture was in Ponta Egola in the deep mud. So it's really, it was amazing. And that power story, there were lots of discussions if Tony really is on a 350. Fortunately, we can. There were the organizers or the commissars at the race in America checking Alessi's bike in terms of displacement, and yeah, we can be lucky or we can be proud that they really recognized that bike of Alessi, who also took lots of hole shots this year, is absolutely conform to the standard, meaning 350. And if anybody of you guys has any doubts, I wouldn't mind to open the engine right after the next podium of Tony, which for sure will happen this year, and check the engine in terms of displacement. That's no question. For model year 12, he also, actually there was not much need to do any updates.
There was not much need, but on the 350 we did the same as on the 250 in terms of the mapping for the electronic fuel injection. That we also made a new mapping with the same result, that in severe operation, deep sand, we offer best performance and torque also for the 350.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the 450. And this 450, it's on the market since 2007 now. It has always been the benchmark in terms of performance. Everybody remembers Max Nagel pulling so many hole shots in the past just with the pure power of this engine. It's the first, our first specialized motocross engine we designed. In former times we always had a common engine for motocross and enduro. We put a lot of effort in the design. It's high technology. It was actually, I think, no, it was not the first engine with finger followers, but it's a high evolution of engine technology. This engine, it is still fitted with a carburetor. Also, a lot of feedback from the market says, hey, leave that carburetor on the bike. Especially the Americans, they love the carburetor because the power delivery, it's much more smoother and constant compared to many injection bikes. And there was the clear feedback, the 450, it doesn't need the fuel injection. Even though you could see Max Nagel racing a bike last year fitted with fuel injection, but that was just a check. We would be able to make a fuel injection, but on the other hand, to be honest, we also want to see how the market develops. If there is still demand for a 450 like it is in the first year, there was still a lot of demand for the more powerful engine of a 450. If this continues like this, you will see changes for next year, and that's something we will talk in about a year if this happens. For model year 2012, you nevertheless did some updates on the engine, which are mainly the clutch.
Yes, exactly. So for model year 12, we put a completely new clutch to the 450. So we have also the parts with us and can talk about it in detail also on the track then later. So the main features of this clutch are, thank you. So it has now a steel basket instead of the aluminium one. So it's really a bulletproof, lasting forever design of the basket, especially in deep sand and wherever it lasts forever. This then gives the possibility for the friction discs to use as a carrier material also a steel instead of aluminium, which has a much higher thermal resistance to have a good lifetime of the clutch under severe riding conditions. Furthermore, the clutch has now an integrated damping system in the hub, not in the basket, because we see that if we integrate it here, it works better and it lasts longer because of the different masses of the basket and the hub. And to make this possible, to integrate the damping system in the hub, we have a new concept for the spring. We have now here a plate or so-called diaphragm spring, which does not require that much space as the 4 to 6, depending on the engine, coil springs. And so it was possible to integrate in the hub the damping system, which provides then advantages in terms of traction and of course reduces the load peaks to the gearbox.
In addition, you also could save some weight, and also the dimension is smaller.
It's a small weight reduction, and the good news is also that you can retrofit it on all 450s since 2007.
Yeah, that's important. Actually, we used to have the same clutch as the Hondas in the past, and
yes.
To be honest, under extreme rough professional conditions, it was always a reliability issue, isn't it? And it is also in the competition a reliability issue. That spring, for me as a user, it gives us the main benefit for myself is that the lever force of the new spring is reducing towards the end of the stroke. Imagine this is the spring. If it's bent like this, if it's flat, from this moment on the lever force gets less, and if you compare it to the normal coil spring solution, there is a major difference in the force. But also in addition, you made a new master cylinder with a smaller diameter, meaning also reduced lever force in addition.
And additionally, it's also for the clutch actuation a better feeling with this new master cylinder.
Well, the same clutch is, by the way, mounted now in all enduro four-strokes, except 250. Well, anything we forgot?
I think this is all.
Then,
What's here?
are there any questions to Andreas? If not, I think we should continue. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you.
With some updates regarding the fuel injection. 42 millimeters throttle body on all our injected bikes, enduro and motocross. For model year 12, we improved some little details. One thing is we experienced that the fuel system, injected fuel system, is more critical in terms of dirt in the fuel. Compared to a carburetor can eat a lot of dirt until you block a hole in the jets. That takes a long time, but a much different situation is regarding the small holes in an injector. And to protect these holes better from dirt, we developed a small filter which is fitted here in the fuel line. It's an important feature to really, also our race team experienced sometimes the problem. If you have fuel in the fuel line, then you get in real trouble. And the mechanic the other day told me they don't even remove the fuel tank during a race when they wash the bike. They really avoid any problem in the fuel, because if the bike is really dirty and there is just a little sand corn falling into the line, it can cause problems in the power in the fuel injection, and therefore this should help a lot. And in addition, we also supply a wash kit to all the new models for the connector between fuel tank and throttle body, in order to protect this connector from dirt coming into the line. In addition, we also have a new protector for the throttle position sensor. This sensor is kind of, can be hit by stones and rocks, and in order to have a better protection against damage, we have a rubber protector which is added on the throttle position sensor on this side. And last but not least, Barney had a great idea, and it was himself. I saw the drawing on a beer carton they made once in the they had a long working day, you can imagine. And it was Barney himself making that tiny little switch for the new models. It's a power part, of course, but it comes together with another second switch. You should know each bike, each injected bike, enduro and motocross, is equipped with the standard curve. Beside the standard curve, there is a softer and a more aggressive curve. The softer, we call it more the traction curve, and the aggressive maybe for the more aggressive riding style. So you do pre-select the curve you want to have beside your standard curve. You put this switch below the seat, select your softer curve, and then during the ride you can switch between the standard and that softer curve. And that's great. If you are in a safe lead, you can say, now let's relax and switch to the more comfortable ride. And this is really something you should experience. In addition, we also have the user setting tool, which is a tool in order to adapt your bike to all kind of needs. If you want to do any tuning or mount an exhaust which does not exist, or if you want to play with the injection, this is the tool you need to do this. Well, Barney, what did we forget to say? Any comments from your side? Then let's do a final chart about the two strokes. On purpose, I do not want to talk about the 50cc and the mini cycles. Also here we have lots of updates. You find them in the last pages of your brochure. If you want to test the bike, we have 50, 65, 85 bikes there, so we had some guys doing a ride on those bikes. Yeah. Don't hesitate, and if you want to have any detailed information, I would enjoy to explain everything to you. The two strokes, as I said in the beginning, that's an important field, and we commit ourselves definitely to the two strokes. I several times mentioned we are working on the long-term future since quite a time. One day, I can promise you, there will be a two-stroke with fuel injection. This technology is under development in our house, and it will be ready once we need it for the EXC homologations, and then one day you will also see it in the motocross probably. Coming back to the highlights, linkage on all the two strokes, new frames and swing arms, the suspension settings of course changed on all the models. Barney, one thing you should explain is the cylinder head brackets. Maybe you can talk about quickly.
I mean, it's not a good looking thing, but it's really incredible how much influence you get out of this single piece regarding stability or vibration items. So we spend a lot of time, especially on the 252 stroke with the link, to have from the riding side a more stable feeling, and also to reduce the vibrations. So this one is a much stiffer one compared to the enduro one, to get out the best performance for the motocross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard Teddy Blasuvia talking. He explained to me he's working a lot with this bracket. He likes actually to ride without cylinder bracket, because he has then the better feeling, especially for this extreme dynamic style of riding he has. But then he once used it for an extreme race, then he had problems with the frame. Actually, you integrate the engine as a supporting chassis element into the frame, and well, it's really, I see you guys, I have never understood that it is so important for you guys, but so.
For the English guys, we almost have the numbers like on the frame.
So where did you end up, at number 20 or 23?
No, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but for sure it was more than 10 different versions.
And you took number 6?
Well, we took number 7.
Okay.
Out of the pocket.
Yeah. Okay, danke Barney. The intake boots we mentioned before, the Kickstarter. It's an important feature because these bikes need to be kicked. On the 1 to 5 we in addition saved 80 grams, which is also an issue on a small bike. New exhaust pipe on the 1 to 5, which gives you more bottom end and better overall power band, and a new reed block on the 250 SX, giving you a better power delivery. Well, gentlemen and lady, that's pretty much all I can tell you now.